Say that again. I dare you, and this ends. The restaurant went silent. Not the polite kind of quiet. The suffocating kind. The kind where forks stop midair and conversations die in throats. Where even the clink of ice in a glass feels like a gunshot. Aurelia Voss didn't flinch. She never did. CEOs like her didn't survive by showing weakness. She leaned back in her chair, fingers drumming once against the table. Slow. Deliberate. A predator deciding whether to strike or toy with prey. "Excuse me," she said, voice smooth as poison. The waiter, Calder Reed, stood perfectly still. No trembling hands. No apologetic smile. Just that same unnerving calm. "Hi, welcome to Heart Voice Stories. Thanks for watching. Kindly tell me what country you're watching from." The mistake had been small. A plate delayed by 2 minutes. Nothing worth mentioning in a normal world. But this wasn't a normal world. This was her world. And in her world, small mistakes were opportunities to remind everyone who held power. She'd made a show of it. Loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Precise enough to humiliate without seeming cruel. Just business. Just control. Calder had absorbed it in silence. Nodded once. Turned to leave. Then stopped. And said those words. Now the entire room was watching. A woman in pearls whispered to her husband. A man in a tailored suit pretended to check his phone but didn't blink. Even the sommelier froze near the bar, bottle still tilted mid-pour. Aurelia's smile tightened. "Are you threatening me?" "No," Calder said. His voice was soft. Almost kind. "I'm warning you." Her jaw twitched. Just once. Nobody else would have noticed. But he did. Then his eyes flicked upward. Not dramatically. Not for show. Just a glance. Toward the corner of the ceiling. Toward the security camera. Aurelia followed his gaze. Frowned. Looked back at him. He was already walking away. The room exhaled. Conversations resumed. Forks moved again. But the air felt different now. Heavier. Like something invisible had shifted. Aurelia sat frozen, replaying the moment in her mind. The tone. The glance. The camera. What did he mean by "this ends"? Why wasn't he afraid? And why did the most powerful woman in the room suddenly feel like she just lost something she couldn't name? Her phone buzzed. A text from her assistant. "Someone's recording. It's already online." Her fingers went cold. Across the restaurant, Calder pushed through the kitchen doors. His face was calm. Unreadable. But his hands, hidden from view, were shaking. Not from fear. From something else entirely. Power never notices the quiet ones until it's too late. Calder's apartment was small. The kind of small where you could hear your neighbor's TV through the walls. Where the heater clanked at 3 a.m. and the fridge hummed too loud. But it was clean. Organized. Disciplined. His daughter, Mira, lay asleep on the couch, homework scattered across her chest. Math problems. Half finished. A pencil still in her hand. Calder stood in the doorway watching her breathe. She was 8. Too young to understand why they lived like this. Too smart not to notice. He moved quietly, lifting the papers without waking her. Placed them on the table. Covered her with a blanket. Then he sat down at the kitchen counter and stared at his hands. They'd stopped shaking. On the counter sat 3 things. A cracked phone, a thermos of cold coffee, and a locked laptop he hadn't opened in 2 years. He didn't touch the laptop. Not yet. Instead he thought about the restaurant. The cameras. The angle. The timing. He hadn't planned to say anything. He never did. Staying invisible was the entire point. But she'd crossed a line. Not with him. With a busboy. A kid barely 17 who'd bumped her chair while clearing plates. She'd turned on him like a wolf on wounded prey. Words sharp enough to scar. Calder had stepped in. Took the blame. Took the heat. That was supposed to be the end of it. But then she'd smiled. That cold, surgical smile. And said something about people who don't know their place. That's when the words came out. "Say that again. I dare you, and this ends." He didn't regret it. Not exactly. But he knew what it meant. Across the city, Aurelia Voss sat in her penthouse office, bathed in blue light from 3 monitors. Her assistant hovered nearby, tablet in hand, face pale. "How many views?" Aurelia asked. 200,000. In 4 hours. Aurelia's fingers tightened around her glass of wine. And climbing? Yes. The clip was short. 15 seconds. Someone had filmed it on their phone. The angle was bad. The audio muffled. But the moment was clear. Her words. His response. The look. Comments were pouring in. Who is this guy? That waiter just ended her whole career. She messed with the wrong one. Aurelia refreshed the page. 300,000 now. Her phone rang. The board chair. She let it go to voicemail. Another call. Her PR director. Ignored. She clicked on the video again. Watched his face. The way he didn't blink. The way he looked at the camera. Like he knew exactly what he was doing. Find out who he is, she said quietly. Her assistant nodded and left. Aurelia sat alone in the dark, watching the view count rise. Back in his apartment, Calder checked his phone. Saw the notifications. The messages. The tags. He powered it off. Kissed Myra's forehead. And went to bed. But he didn't sleep. Because he knew what came next. The clip didn't go viral. It metastasized. By morning it had crossed 1 million views. By noon, 5 million. Commentary channels dissected every frame. Reaction videos flooded timelines. Someone slowed down the footage, zoomed in on Calder's face, circled his eyes. Look at that. He's not scared. He's calculating. The internet couldn't decide who was wrong. Half the comments defended Aurelia. She's a CEO. He's a waiter. Know your place. The other half called her a monster. Money doesn't buy you the right to destroy people. But most people ask the same question. What did he mean by, this ends? Aurelia's PR team worked overtime. Damage control. Strategic silence. They advised her not to respond. Let it blow over. These things always did. But this one didn't. By day 2, sponsors started calling. Not angry. Concerned. The kind of concern that came with contract clauses and reputation penalties. We just want to make sure everything's stable, one said. Translation, fix this or we're out. Aurelia sat in an emergency meeting, surrounded by lawyers and analysts. Everyone talked in circles. Crisis language. Spin strategies. She wasn't listening. She was watching the comments. Someone had posted a frame-by-frame breakdown. The moment Calder glanced at the camera. The exact angle. The precise timing. He knew where it was. He wanted to be recorded. Another comment, pinned by thousands of likes. This wasn't an accident. This was a setup. Aurelia's chest tightened. Across town, Calder was at the restaurant. Same shift. Same uniform. Same quiet efficiency. Customers stared. Some whispered. A few tried to take pictures. He ignored them. But his manager pulled him aside during his break. You're becoming a problem, the manager said. Calder said nothing. Corporates getting calls. People asking questions. We can't have this kind of attention. I understand. Do you? The manager leaned closer. Because if this gets worse, we're letting you go. Calder nodded. Understood. He walked back to the floor. Picked up a tray. Kept moving. But inside something shifted. That night, someone posted a new discovery. A comment buried deep in the thread. Anyone notice the timestamp on the restaurant's security footage? It was accessed 3 times that night. After the incident. Then another. Who downloads footage at 11 p.m.? And why? Speculation turned into paranoia. People started digging. Restaurant name. Location. Staff lists. Security vendor contracts. Aurelia's phone buzzed. A private message from an unknown number. 3 words. You should check access. Her blood went cold. She forwarded it to her head of security. Find out who sent this. An hour later he called back. We have a problem. What kind of problem? Someone queried our internal access logs. Multiple systems. The footage archive. Vendor permissions. Timeline matches the night of the incident. Aurelia's hands went numb. Who? We don't know yet. But whoever it was, they knew exactly where to look. She hung up. Stared at the message again. You should check access. Her mind raced. The waiter. The camera. The timing. It wasn't random. It never was. Power panics when time becomes visible. Aurelia's inner circle activated like a military unit. Lawyers. Compliance officers. Digital forensics. Everyone moved with the same urgency, the same fear they tried to hide behind professional language. Because something was coming. In 3 weeks, the board would vote on her future. A merger hung in the balance. Regulatory approval teetered on public perception. One scandal, one crack in her armor, and everything collapsed. She'd survived hostile takeovers. Market crashes. Betrayals. But she'd never felt hunted before. The forensics team delivered their report in her private office. Glass walls. City lights below. No witnesses. The access logs were touched, the lead analyst said. Someone queried archive footage. Cross-referenced vendor permissions. Check timeline overlaps. When? The night of the incident. And twice after. Aurelia's jaw tightened. Who? We don't know. The signature's incomplete. Whoever did this knew how to cover tracks. But not completely. No. Not completely. She leaned forward. Then find them. They left. She sat alone, staring at her reflection in the dark glass. Somewhere out there, someone was building a case. Mapping her vulnerabilities. Waiting. But for what? Across the city, Calder tucked Mira into bed. She yawned, clutching a stuffed rabbit worn thin from years of use. Dad. Yes, sweetheart. Why do people lie? He paused. What do you mean? At school. We're doing presentations about truth. And everyone keeps saying truth is important. But grown-ups lie all the time. Calder sat on the edge of her bed. Sometimes people lie because they're scared. Sometimes because they think it'll protect them. Does it? No. Not really. She looked up at him with those wide, knowing eyes. Do you lie? I try not to. Even when it's hard? Especially when it's hard. She smiled. Closed her eyes. He kissed her forehead and stood. But he didn't leave the room right away. He watched her breathe. Steady. Safe. Unaware of the storm circling their lives. He'd built this quiet existence for her. Walked away from everything to give her normal. To give her peace. Now that peace was cracking. Online the theories multiplied. Reddit threads. Twitter investigations. TikTok breakdowns. The waiter is ex-military. No, he's a whistleblower. He's a plant. This whole thing is staged. One comment got traction. I tried to look him up. Calder Reed. Found nothing. No social media. No digital footprint before 2 years ago. It's like he didn't exist. Aurelia's team found the same thing. They brought her a file. Thin. Incomplete. Employment history, 2 years at the restaurant. Before that, gaps. Redacted employers. Missing years too clean to be accidental. This doesn't make sense, her lawyer said. People don't just vanish from records. Unless someone erased them, Aurelia whispered. Her assistant knocked. Entered hesitantly. There's something else. What? A name keeps appearing in the access patterns. Cross-referenced with the vendor systems. Aurelia's pulse quickened. Whose name? The assistant swallowed. Ravel Morn. The room went cold. Ravel. Her executive VP. Her right hand for 5 years. Polished. Loyal. Always 2 steps ahead. Always present. Aurelia's mind raced backward. Every meeting. Every decision. Every crisis. He'd been there for all of them. She looked at the file again. At Calder's face in the security photo. Then whispered a name she shouldn't know. A name from a case 3 years ago. A whistleblower scandal buried deep. And realized she shouldn't know it at all. When fear can't find proof, it invents guilt. Aurelia moved first. Not publicly. Not yet. But the whisper started. Controlled leaks to industry blogs. Anonymous tips to labor watchdogs. Carefully worded statements about staff misconduct under review. The message was clear. The waiter crossed a line. By morning the narrative shifted. Restaurant investigating employee for illegal recordings. Waiter may have violated privacy laws. Was the viral moment a setup? Public opinion tilted. The internet loved reversals. Loved watching heroes become villains. Comments flooded in. I knew something was off about him. He probably planned this for a lawsuit. CEOs are people too. She didn't deserve this. Calder saw the headlines during his break. Scrolled through the accusations in silence. His face didn't change. Didn't harden. Didn't crack. He just kept reading. 2 days later they came for him. Not police. Corporate investigators. Lawyers in expensive suits with rehearsed smiles and questions designed to trap. They sat him in a back office. Recorded everything. Did you access security footage without authorization? No. Did you record the interaction with Ms. Voss? No. Did you plan to humiliate her publicly? No. Then why did you look at the camera? Calder paused. Looked at them calmly. I didn't look at a camera. I looked at where a camera would be. What's the difference? Intent. The lead investigator leaned forward. Mr. Reed, we have reason to believe you orchestrated this incident for personal gain. Based on what? Your background. The gaps. The missing years. Calder's jaw tightened. Just slightly. Those years are sealed. Legally. Why? Because I cooperated with a federal investigation. My identity was protected. My records were redacted. Silence. The investigator glanced at his notes. Uncertain now, Calder leaned back. If someone wanted to expose Ms. Voss, they wouldn't need to touch a camera. What does that mean? It means the truth doesn't need recordings. It just needs time. The investigators left with nothing. But the line lingered. If someone wanted to expose you, they wouldn't need to touch a camera. Online people replayed it, analyzed it, theorized. He's saying she's already exposed. What does he know? This isn't about the restaurant. It's something bigger. Meanwhile, inside Aurelia's empire, a man worked quietly. Ravel Morn, Executive VP, Trusted Advisor, Ghost in the Machine. He sat in his glass office reviewing reports, vendor contracts, access permissions, security protocols. Everything moved through him. Every decision, every crisis, every response. He'd been there when the incident happened, suggested the PR strategy, recommended the investigation, encouraged Aurelia's paranoia, whispered the right fears at the right time. Now he made a call. Private. Encrypted. She's spiraling, he said. Right on schedule. Pause. Good. Keep her focused on the waiter. The board vote is in 2 weeks. By then she'll be too distracted to see it coming. He hung up, smiled. Across town, Calder finally opened his laptop. The screen glowed in the dark. Old software. Familiar tools. Systems he hadn't touched in years. He cracked his knuckles. Typed a single query. Access logs. Permission trees. Vendor authorizations. The data flooded in. Patterns. Timestamps. Signatures. One name repeated across every system. Ravel Morn. Calder's eyes narrowed. He whispered to the empty room, "There you are." Mira stirred on the couch. Still asleep. He closed the laptop, covered her with a blanket, and made a decision. This wasn't about him anymore. It never was. Some people don't break rules, they map them. Calder's past wasn't glamorous. No spy agencies. No hacker collectives. Just systems. He'd worked in content moderation architecture. The invisible infrastructure that tracked behavior across platforms. Metadata trails. Influence paths. Permission layers. He didn't spy on people. He audited truth. Found patterns in chaos. Identified manipulation before it spread. Mapped who had access to what, when, and why. He was good at it. Too good. 5 years ago he'd uncovered something massive. A network of coordinated accounts manipulating financial markets through fake news. Traced it back to a shell company. Then a hedge fund. Then a name everyone knew. He reported it. Testified. Brought everything he had. The case disappeared. Still. Classified. Buried under national security justifications that made no sense. 2 weeks later, men in suits visited his apartment. Polite. Professional. Terrifying. They offered him a deal. Walk away, accept a new identity, never speak about it again. Or face charges for unauthorized access. Lose custody of his daughter. Lose everything. He chose Mira. Disappeared into quiet work. Invisible jobs. Waiting tables. Staying off grids. Until Aurelia Voss walked into his restaurant. Now, sitting in his dim apartment, Calder did what he did best. He mapped. The laptop screen filled with data. Access logs from Aurelia's company. Vendor permissions. System timestamps. Shadow uploads that shouldn't exist. He cross-referenced them. Built timelines. Tracked patterns. Every security query. Every permission change. Every delayed sync. One signature appeared again and again. Ravel Morn. But it wasn't random. It was surgical. Ravel had approved access changes 3 weeks before the restaurant incident. Adjusted vendor contracts. Modified surveillance protocols. He built a trapdoor. Then waited for someone to fall through. Calder leaned back. Exhaled. This wasn't about him. Never was. Aurelia was the target. Ravel was the weapon. And the viral moment? Just the trigger. Meanwhile, Aurelia spiraled. Board calls grew tense. Sponsors asked pointed questions. Her approval ratings dropped daily. Ravel sat across from her, calm as ever. "We need to control this," he said. "I'm trying." "Not hard enough. The waiter's a distraction. Focus on the merger. The board vote. That's what matters." She rubbed her temples. "The waiter knows something. He's nobody. A ghost. Let him go." But she couldn't. Something about him haunted her. The way he'd looked at the camera. The line he'd said. If someone wanted to expose you, they wouldn't need to touch a camera. What did he mean? Ravel's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. Smiled slightly. The board's calling an emergency session. Tomorrow. Aurelia's stomach dropped. Why? Concerns about leadership stability. Your judgment. My judgment. The incident. The investigation. The optics. He paused. They want answers. She stared at him. For the first time something felt wrong. You knew this was coming. I advised caution. You didn't listen. Her chest tightened. You pushed the investigation. To protect you. Did you? Silence. Ravel stood. Adjusted his tie. Get some rest, Aurelia. Tomorrow's going to be difficult. He left. She sat alone, replaying every conversation. Every decision. Every time Ravel had been there. Guiding. Suggesting. Pushing. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. A single file attachment. No words. She opened it. Access logs. Timestamps. Permission trees. And one name highlighted in red. Ravel Morn. Her hand shook. At the bottom, a single line of text. He's not protecting you. He's replacing you. Across the city, Calder closed his laptop, kissed Myra's forehead, and waited. The truth didn't need him anymore. It just needed time. The danger was never below her. It was sitting beside her. Aurelia didn't sleep. She spent the night tracing every document, every access log, every timestamp. The evidence was surgical, deliberate, damning. Ravel had orchestrated everything. 3 weeks before the restaurant incident, he'd modified vendor permissions, given himself backdoor access to surveillance systems, adjusted security protocols so footage could be queried without alerts. He built the stage, waited for the performance, then leaked it himself. But why? The answer came at 6 a.m. Another anonymous message. Check the board proxy votes. See who controls them now. She pulled the confidential files. Scanned the voting blocks. Her breath stopped. Ravel had been quietly securing proxies for months. Board members who owed him favors. Shareholders he'd courted privately. Allies he'd cultivated while pretending to serve her. He had the votes. Not to support her. To remove her. The emergency board meeting wasn't about saving the company. It was a coup. And she'd been too blind to see it. At 9 a.m. the board convened. Glass conference room. 18 faces. Cold fluorescent light. Aurelia walked in alone. Ravel was already seated. Calm. Collected. Perfect. The board chair cleared his throat. Ms. Voss, we've called this meeting to address concerns about your leadership. Recent events have raised questions about judgment, stability, and... I know what this is, Aurelia interrupted. Silence. She placed a folder on the table. Before you vote, you should see this. Ravel's expression didn't change, but his fingers tightened slightly on his pen. She opened the folder, turned it toward the board. Access logs, permission overrides, security modifications, all traced to one person. She looked directly at Ravel. You. Murmurs rippled through the room. Ravel smiled. Come. This is desperation, Aurelia. You're grasping at. You leaked the footage, she said. You triggered the crisis. You manipulated the narrative to destabilize my position. Also, you could take my seat. That's absurd. Is it? She pulled out another document. These are the proxy votes you've been collecting. Meetings you've held in private. Promises you've made. The board chair leaned forward, studying the documents. Ravel's smile faded. You've been planning this for months, Aurelia continued. Used my own paranoia as a weapon. Fed my fear. Isolated me. Made me look unstable. You did that yourself. Maybe. But you helped. The room shifted. Board members exchanged glances. One spoke up. Mr. Morn, is this true? Ravel stood slowly. Straightened his jacket. You're all missing the point. Aurelia's leadership has been compromised. Her judgment. Your access signature is on every document, Aurelia said quietly. Every security breach. Every leaked file. It's all you. Ravel's jaw tightened. Another board member, how did you get this evidence? Aurelia paused. Glanced at the folder. Someone sent it to me. Who? She didn't answer. Because she didn't know. But across the city, Calder sat in a park watching Mira play on the swings. His phone buzzed. A news alert. Corporate executive under investigation for internal sabotage. He pocketed the phone. Pushed Mira higher on the swing. She laughed, bright and free. He smiled. Back in the boardroom, Ravel was surrounded. Questions firing from all sides. Lawyers called. Security summoned. His empire collapsed in minutes. He stared at Aurelia. You think you've won? No, she said. I think I survived. He was escorted out. The room exhaled. Aurelia sat down, hands shaking. The board chair spoke carefully. We'll need to investigate further. But for now, the vote is postponed. She nodded. And for the first time in weeks, breathed. Power always tries to buy forgiveness. 3 days after the collapse, Aurelia made a private call. No assistants. No lawyers. Just her voice and a phone number she wasn't supposed to have. Calder answered on the third ring. Hello. It's Aurelia Voss. Silence. Then, I know. Can we meet? Why? Because I owe you an explanation. Another pause. You don't owe me anything. Please. He hesitated. Where? She named a quiet cafe. Neutral ground. No cameras. No witnesses. He agreed. They met at sunset. The cafe was nearly empty. Soft jazz played from hidden speakers. She sat in the corner booth, hands wrapped around an untouched coffee. Calder arrived exactly on time. Sat across from her without ceremony. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Aurelia broke the silence. You sent me the files. No. She frowned. Then who? Someone who understood what was happening. Maybe someone who wanted you to see it yourself. But not you. I just connected dots. What you did with them was your choice. She studied him. You knew. From the beginning. I suspected. Why didn't you warn me? Calder leaned back. Would you have listened? She didn't answer. Because they both knew the truth. I humiliated you, she said quietly. Yes. In front of everyone. Yes. And you could have destroyed me. Calder shook his head. That was never the point. Then what was? He looked at her directly. You destroyed someone else that night. A kid. 17. First job. Made a mistake. You gutted him in public because you could. Aurelia's chest tightened. She remembered. Barely. The busboy. I took the blame, Calder continued. Redirected your anger. That's all I planned to do. Then why the line? Why the camera? Because you needed to understand something. What? That people are watching. Always. And cruelty has consequences. Silence settled between them. Aurelia looked down. I've spent my whole life fighting. Clawing. Proving I belong in rooms that didn't want me. I thought power meant never showing weakness. It doesn't. I know that now. Calder said nothing. She took a breath. I want to offer you something. I'm not interested. You haven't heard it yet. I don't need to. She pushed forward anyway. A position. Chief of operations. Full benefits. Salary you'd never make serving tables. Influence. Respect. No. You'd be perfect for it. You understand systems. People. How things actually work. I said no. Why? Calder leaned forward. Because I already know what power costs. Aurelia froze. I had it once, he continued. A career. Status. Rooms like yours. And I lost everything because I told the truth to people who didn't want to hear it. Then why not take it back? Because I have something more important now. He pulled out his phone. Showed her a photo. Mirror. Smiling. Safe. I don't need your world, he said. I just need hers. Aurelia stared at the photo. Something inside her cracked. You're a better person than me, she whispered. No. Just different priorities. He stood to leave. Calder. He paused. Thank you. He nodded once. Then walked out. Aurelia sat alone, staring at her cold coffee. For the first time in years she didn't feel powerful. She felt small. And strangely, human. Outside, Calder walked toward the bus stop. His phone buzzed. A text from Myra's school. Reminder about parent-teacher night. He smiled. This was his world now. And it was enough. The loudest victories make no sound. 3 months passed. The headlines faded. The viral clip became old news. Internet outrage moved on to fresher scandals, brighter fires. Ravel Morn disappeared from public view. No charges filed, corporate lawyers made sure of that. But his career was over. His reputation buried. His name became shorthand for betrayal in boardrooms across the country. He got what he deserved. Quietly. Permanently. Aurelia restructured the company. New oversight. New ethics board. New transparency policies. She didn't do it for applause. She did it because she'd seen what happened when power went unchecked. She'd been that power. The board vote came and went. She kept her position. But something had changed. She listened more. Spoke less. made space for voices she used to silence. People noticed. Slowly, carefully, trust began to rebuild. But she never forgot the waiter's face, the calm in his eyes, the line that ended everything. Say that again. I dare you, and this ends. It haunted her. Not with fear. With clarity. She'd been given a choice that night. And she'd almost made the wrong one. Across the city, Calder's life returned to rhythm. Morning shifts. School drop-offs. Homework help. Bedtime stories. Mira thrived. Made new friends. Won a school award for her presentation on truth and honesty. She didn't know her father had become a symbol. That people still quoted his line online. That it had become a rallying cry for accountability. Say that again. Used in comment sections. Protest signs. Workplace confrontations. A reminder that silence could break. That power could be questioned. That consequences existed. Calder saw the post sometimes. Scrolled past without comment. It wasn't about him anymore. Maybe it never was. One evening while washing dishes, Mira asked him a question. Dad, do you ever regret things? He paused. Everyone does. What do you regret? He thought carefully. Not speaking up sooner. Letting fear control me for too long. But you're brave now. He smiled. I'm trying to be. She hugged him. Small arms. Big trust. I think you already are. He held her close. Felt the weight of every choice that brought them here. The career he'd lost. The identity he'd buried. The years spent invisible. All of it led to this moment. And he wouldn't change it. Meanwhile, Aurelia sat in her office. Late night. City lights sprawling below. She opened her laptop. Searched for his name one last time. Calder read. Still almost nothing. A few articles referencing the waiter. Speculation threads. Dead ends. He'd stayed invisible. By choice. She respected that. Closed the laptop. Stood at the window. Somewhere out there he was living a life she'd never understand. A life built on things money couldn't buy. Purpose. Peace. Presence. She envied him. Not for what he had. For what he didn't need. A notification pinged. Another message. Another crisis. Another decision. She took a breath. And handled it differently this time. Across town, Calder tucked Mira into bed. Good night, sweetheart. Good night, Dad. He turned off the light. Stood in the doorway. Listened to her breathe. Safe. Love. Free. That was his victory. Silent. Unseen. Unshakable. He closed the door softly. And smiled. Because the world had moved on. But the line remained. A quiet reckoning that started with 4 words. And changed everything. The most dangerous person in the room isn't the one with power, it's the one who understands it. 6 months later. Different restaurant. Different city. Same glass walls and expensive silence. Calder moved between tables with the same quiet efficiency. Tray balanced. Steps measured. Invisible by design. A businessman held court at table 7. Loud. Confident. The kind of confidence that came from never being told no. His assistant sat beside him. Young. Nervous. Taking notes on everything. The businessman snapped his fingers at Calder. Yo. Water. Now. Calder nodded. Brought the water. As he set it down, the businessman knocked it over. Deliberately. Water spread across the white tablecloth. Clumsy, the businessman said. Loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Can't even pour water right. The assistant's face went pale. Calder looked at the spill. Then at the man. I'll get you another, he said calmly. You'll get me a manager. This is unacceptable. The room quieted. That familiar tension. That performance of power. Calder stood perfectly still. The businessman leaned back. Smiled. What? You got something to say? Calder met his eyes. No, sir. Good. Know your place. The assistant looked down. Ashamed. For himself. For Calder. For all of it. Calder turned to leave. Then stopped. The businessman's smile widened. Oh, you do have something to say. Calder looked back. Not at the businessman. At the assistant. You don't have to accept this, he said quietly. The assistant blinked. Confused. Working for someone who treats people like this. You have a choice. The businessman's face darkened. Excuse me? Calder ignored him. Kept his eyes on the assistant. It took me too long to learn that. Don't make the same mistake. Then he walked away. The businessman shouted after him. I'll have your job. Calder didn't turn around. But as he pushed through the kitchen doors, he heard it. A chair scraping back. The assistant standing. I quit. 3 words. Quiet. Firm. The businessman sputtered. What? I quit. Effective immediately. Silence exploded. Calder smiled to himself. Kept walking. Outside, the assistant caught up with him on the street. Thank you, the assistant said. I've been wanting to do that for months. Calder nodded. Then you were already ready. You just needed permission. What about you? He's going to complain. Let him. You're not scared. Calder thought about Mira. About the life they'd built. About every battle that brought them here. Not anymore. The assistant smiled. Extended a hand. I'm Jordan. Calder shook it. Calder. They stood under the streetlights. 2 people who'd just chosen dignity over comfort. What now? Jordan asked. Calder shrugged. You figure out what matters. Then you protect it. He started walking. Jordan called after him. Hey, that line. About having a choice. Where'd you learn that? Calder paused. Look back. From someone who didn't give me one. And taught me why it matters. He disappeared into the night. Above, the city hummed with a million voices. A million choices. A million moments where power met resistance. And somewhere in that noise, a line still echoed. Say that again. I dare you, and this ends. Not a threat. A reminder. That silence breaks. That consequences exist. That the quietest people in the room might be the most dangerous. Not because of what they'll do, but because of what they know. If you've ever had to stand up to power, drop your story below. And if this moved you, hit that like button and subscribe, because stories like this matter. What country are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for being here.